Today, Saturday, 12th October 2024, me, na Chief Somanoh Kapen. I thought we had reached the climax, especially when I've been dealing with the zero-sum dramaturgy for power. But when I read an audio from Ambassador Almami Kamara a few days ago, somebody who I get the highest respect for, he make I reflect on Kipling's poem, where I will paraphrase, and it states as follows: if you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs, maybe you do not understand the gravity of the situation. This one are the situation where they face na Sierra Leone. However, the ambassador Almami Kamara been deal with comprehensively and appropriately on the cocktail of the seats who don't bewitch the APC party and running through its spine. Undoubtedly, there has been growing anxiety and apprehension and rancor running through the membership of the APC. However, through tactical interventions from people like Honorable Alhaji Kemosise, Imran T, the Lioness of the North, Pa MS Bongura of the Rapid Hunts, Udina, Germany. Of course, the economists who now don't become the political economists, aka cash box. It only become very clear as a long day wanes and a slow moon climbs that the APC under the helm of Dr. Samura M.W. Kamara as flag bearer is on course to emerge victorious in its quest for electoral justice. In the party's endeavor to achieve that goal, we take into account the difficulties, the impediments in our domestic laws and legislation. We don't set we sights too high. But from recent developments, especially after the unity agreements, where the government and the APC with the development partners they enter into, that do ensure say this objective for electoral justice the day within we grasp. All that needs for achieve that task now for let the party give the necessary support, empathy, resolve, and resilience to the leadership. And what is central for all this now, of course, a dint of unity. In this audio, I will briefly cover the following topics. the Tripartite, and Electoral Justice. That are the first item. The second, it relates to the interviews, the tweets, the press statements of the American ambassador on the tripartite recommendations and the MCC. And what impact watching them tweets, interviews, and press releases will you get on the political landscape. The third topic we are going to look into now how to avoid the blame game and for let the party adopt a realistic approach to issues of concern. Then, of course, the Women's Congress. That's the fourth topic. But I will just look at them randomly because I get to take time for look at certain issues, you know, that go into depth of watching transpire, and whatever outcomes from the meetings they wouldn't get from the 10th to the 11th. But before I go into details on the topical issues, I go just want for briefly state two quotations. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, in his inaugural address to Congress on 20th January 1961, remarked, "Those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside." In the same vein, the Chinese proverb, "Those who use bare hands to skin a sleeping lion become victims of his jaws and teeth." You know, in the realm of politics, these two statements are then very important. And it will serve as a guide, especially to young politicians who they go into politics, especially party politics, for know how to move on, to avoid, certain unfortunate situations who go dent their reputation and therefore affect adversely their political careers. And it relates more to them and they will become carried away by certain sentiments, and this has become the vogue in the APC. A lot of people, particularly young men and women, not just the bloggers, but these are young politicians and even high rated national officers who don't make certain unpalatable statements them who really they affect the very ethos of the party. So let me now deal with the first topic, the tripartite and the electoral justice. We all know say resolution 3 of the unity agreement is the one commonly referred to as the Tripartite. Each time one looks at this resolution and reflects on it, you see more discoveries. For me, the tripartite in the game of power don't become a whole phenomenon, a labyrinth that inspires thinking and re-evaluation in the search for remedies, that is equity, equitable remedies, where the law imposes strict application and penalties, but to reform them as the occasion demands, so as to do what justice and equity require. That is the purposive approach. Now that way they immediately look at the tripartite and at the form we don't take. And I go one day will look at Shakespeare in book, in play, The Merchant of Venice. And from there we can draw a lesson. And when you look at The Merchant of Venice, what happened, the bond we sign with the one we enter into an agreement for a debt we get for pay, you go really see say the tripartite don't provide the roadmap for the electoral justice. USA gets the competing dilemmas, the domestic law and the international convention or treaty. In that play, Bassanio, I will just quote verbatim the relevant passages. Bassanio said, "And I beseech you, rest once the law to your authority. To do a great right, do a little wrong." Then Portia retorted, "It must not be. There is no power in Venice can alter a decree established. It will be recorded for a precedent, and many an error by same example will rush into the state. It cannot be." Then Shylock said, "I crave the penalty and forfeit of my bond." What Shakespeare been they say is, in the law of Venice, they no get any relief in equity against certain penalties and forfeiture. The law is very strict. So when you enter into a bond, into an agreement, it has to be construed very strictly. So there was no form of relief by way of equity. And like we in Sierra Leone, when you have in the constitution, provision then they will really you forget strict compliance, and you no go get relief so easily if you no go in accordance with the provisions of that act or provision. I continue with the quotation. A Daniel come to judgment. Yea, a Daniel. O wise judge, how do I honor thee? These rhymes in support of a strict law which could not be relieved by equity. Portia said, tarry a little, there is something else. This bond don't give thee here no jot of blood. The words expressly are a pound of flesh. Take then thy bond, take thou thy pound of flesh. But in the cutting it, if thou dost shed one drop of Christian blood, the lands and goods are by the laws of Venice confiscate unto the state of Venice. For as thou urgest justice, be assured thou shalt have justice more than thou desirest. So this was how Portia be able for find an indirect route, because the bond was Sherlock they enter into, if there is a default on the other party in compliance of that bond, then he for cut a pound of flesh. And the law in Venice is very strict. But for seek relief, Portia bin for come out with the idea say, yes, you have the right for cut the pound of flesh. But in doing that, there must not be a drop of any blood. How that would be achievable? You know? So that is the situation. And in our own electoral laws, we go into an election for the presidential. The law makes provision that in the event a particular candidate then declare as president, then the other one, he feel dissatisfied, he get the option for petition. And the only authority we give for determine that petition day now the Supreme Court within a period of 7 days if you don't put the petition. So the law is very strict on that. But through some decision by the NAC of the APC, they don't get previous experience. They believed that if they go to the Supreme Court, they know will get justice. So the only way they decide say they will boycott governance. And the second highest body of the party took that decision, that they for boycott governance. And that they get serious implications. And therefore, an arrangement was reached whereby they go into these peace talks, that Bintu Mani, and came up with the unity agreement. And in that unity agreement was the resolution 3, which relates to the tripartite. And the judge will be deep on the deliberations, the way how they couch that resolution. they adopt the purposive approach. That is for seek relief, whose side the law very strict, and that relief could be equated to an equitable relief, you know. And it is that resolution today who don't shape the path for the electoral justice. And that is a remarkable achievement by the APC. They didn't go now the Security Council because of the development partners' their participation in the agreements, and it has to be enforced because provision they within that agreement that it is implementable and actionable. So you get all the necessary requirements, and the parties involved in that agreement are the government of Sierra Leone, the APC party, and the development partners. And since the development partners are party to that agreement, you don't get the 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 the, the necessary international. You don't fall within the realm of the international convention and treaty. So now these tripartites don't provide the roadmap. It is now the roadmap to the electoral justice. That is a remarkable achievement by the flag bearer of the APC in the person of Dr. Samura M.W. Kamara. And this piece of Hamlet, no, and this piece of the Merchant of Venice, it will be of very great interest to students of art, law, and political science. You get so many other lessons where they learn from Shakespeare, who relates to the concept of power. Like Julius Caesar, I will not make a quotation in one of my last audios. Then, of course, the famed madness of Hamlet, the famed madness of Hamlet tactic, where you read in other play, Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, how Hamlet frightened, his stepdaddy Claudius through the mystery of his behavior. He frightened the soldier there, and so through that he be able for overcome in unruling troops there. Then now let us go to the interviews, the tweets, the press releases of the US ambassador. You know, a lot of things have been said about Brian Hunt, the US ambassador to Sierra Leone. And some of these allegations, to me, as a former diplomat, a very senior diplomat, having served in London at the Court of St. James as head of Chancery and Chancellor. But before I went to London, I was also head of Chancery and Chancellor in the People's Republic of China. You know, at times, while they listen to bloggers and other people, I can become so disturbed, you know. And I have to say this. Brian Hunt is the ambassador of the USA to the Republic of Sierra Leone. He represents the most powerful country in the world. But even more importantly, and I want people to note this, even more importantly, the cornerstone or the touchstone of the US foreign policy, like the other Western powers, is democracy, the rule of law, and good governance. This is anchored in the basic principle that we can normally say brinkmanship. And believe me, with that policy of the United States of America, no envoy of whatever seniority can derail that policy. You cannot. Then, secondly, diplomacy is an art akin to the word game of the devil and the angel. The devil, they dance on the head of the needle. I want people to take note of this. But the angel, they dance on top of the head of the needle. They pass through the eye of the needle. That is the essence of diplomacy. So any ambassador of note or high standing, they follow stricto sensu the policy of his government. He is the officially recognized interlocutor between his government and the country that he is serving in as an ambassador. So to have an envoy of that standing as ambassador to Sierra Leone from the United States of America, if for any reason he go beyond in the mark, the State Department will recall and forthwith. So for the cast aspersions, they help the situation. The man knows the job he is doing. And it is now becoming very clear that he is up to the task. Therefore, and let us recognize also that since the impasse on the 2023 June 24 multi-tier elections, Sierra Leone don dey dangle. We don dey dangle on a very thin line between order and chaos. So for a US ambassador, and more so for a UK High Commissioner who breaching get a local parentis with Sierra Leone, they will be very cautious of what dem dey do, because dem careful dey blow hot and cold for maintain that delicate balance wey we dey dangle on that slim rope between order and chaos. And that is what the man is doing exactly. Excuse me. So any statements, therefore, by Brian Hunt must form the basis of critical analysis because it might serve as a precursor or harbinger of things to come. And that would exactly the see. The man they go na 98.1. He go say this without looking at it very critically, with an analytic eye. He begin to cast aspersions. The emotions they run high. They defeat the very purpose. And that is why you have highly praised national officers who go get for carry out a critical examination of such a statement made by a foreign envoy on a situation that is likely to affect, the security of the state and vis-a-vis his role. And for a political party, he therefore also look at her. The executive for sit up, analyze her, so that go really know what's in the gist of that statement. Like what the man been say, there will be no rerun as far as the domestic laws they're concerned. He was saying the truth. But you don't only stop there. He went further to say, in the absence of that, there will be area which I will look into accountability. But then the tripartite not been come out yet with the recommendations. But he covered himself. And that is the provision in the laws of our country. I want to ask the national executive, that is the APC party, the following questions. Watching una as the national executive, watching una discern from the now emerged nexus what don dey between the MCC and the 84 tripartite recommendations. Watching una as the national executive of the APC, una don sidon look at critically the nexus wey the American government don tie up with the MCC. Because if una able for look at it critically and una able for determine that nexus, then there is no cause wey una go dey continue for debate say these elections are done and dusted. Are done and dusted. Because you have to look at the 84 recommendations. What is pathetic? The people they all be for can for educate the membership on those issues. Now some of them you don't say the elections are done and dusted. Even when the flag bearer he come out on your statement and he made a tweet making clarification on the convergence and divergence recommendations. Still, the argument continued unabated that Samura for can't tell the people the truth. No? Let us be fair to ourselves. Then, can we look at it further? Can we say the US government, is the US government using the MCC as a bait to needle the government? That is the other perspective that we as members of the APC, and especially for national officers, for executive officers, to look at it. Because they don't come out with a press statement. They don't go up to the vice president together with the top, one of the top executives of the MCC. And they are very clear on that issue. Watching the national officers of the APC, they look at this situation. I, as a Sierra Leonean, am looking at it as if the US government has used the MCC as a base to needle the government so that they will comply strictly to the recommendations of the Tripartite. And there are 84. APC. When I was in the SLPP, when the situation would not even measure up to this, John Benjamin and I, JJ Safar, we go sit down, deliberate on these issues, and we inform our membership. We call press conferences so that every member, whether I did now you village, you will know which are the line of action of the party. This is a very major development. Very, very major development. And I don't think that the party, they follow up. All the original they say, Samura for can't tell the people then the truth. Samura for can't tell the people then the truth. But critically, when they say the buck stops here, in the APC, now on Wudatin table, the buck for stop. Now Samura they control the party. The buck not they stop on Samura and table. If we use the concept of collective responsibility, the buck they stop on the national executive. But that sole responsibility is the chairman. The buck stops on his table. Now he get the mandate for call the Secretary General for convene a meeting of either the national executive or NAC. He has that sole responsibility. But Samura for can't tell the people the truth. Samura for can't tell the people the truth. As governors of the APC, you should have learned the lesson, which is basic in the quest for power or in maintaining power. You have to lure your opponents with fabulous gains. Then you attack. You hold the cards And in this case, that is exactly what the US ambassador is doing. Now they are using the options. The State Department is using the options. And they give you the cards, what then get for deal, what then they deal with. Have we been lured into accepting, whether we like it or not, the tripartite recommendations without even taking into account whatever decision the Security Council, but what you don't know now on this MCC, we don't swallow the bait, we don't go sign for the MCC. And now that MCC has been tied to the 84 recommendations. Whose truth again? Who the national officers, the way they go say, oh, and then the parliamentarians, my nephew, AKK. My man are from Rofoko. My first cousin, his sister, Alaji Bangba, Limebona. You get your uncle, who is a highly experienced administrator, notwithstanding the fact that you're a member of parliament. If you delve into their issues, yeah, you know, go get the courtesy for column, then you go public. Part 2